Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on mysterious and weird, true stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Bonus case file, written by DefintelyNotOP. An extraordinary encounter of the third kind. This happened to me July this year, and I've been thinking about it constantly since. I'll try to sum up the experience as best as I can. I'm kind of a mentally damaged oddity. I have bipolar disorder and complex post-traumatic disorder. I'm a 24-year-old girl who lives alone in the city, just minding my own business. I have a few friends, but I'm not close with my family. It's not unusual for me to go a few weeks or months without really seeing anyone besides coworkers, especially during a globalized pandemic. So I've just been doing my own thing. This encounter happened during one of the few week stretches of isolation. I'm only giving this bit of exposition so people can understand my psych history as well as my mental state, etc. So at the start of July, I got this uncontrollable impulse to go camping and stargaze. I never go camping alone, haven't been in around 4 years, and had no camping crap whatsoever. But I wanted to go for some reason, so I researched some good dark sky spots in Utah. Found a cute little campground about 4 hours into the desert, and reserved the last spot available for a week out from that day. I bought all my stuff the day before and just drove out. I'm kinda terrible at planning and time management, so by the time I arrived at the campground, the sun was already going down. I also had forgotten my charger and realized I had to make my 60% battery last until I could make it back to the city the next day. There was no service out there, so that seemed easy enough. My entire goal was to chill in my hammock chair all night and stargaze anyway, so all I needed was some music for that. I specifically chose the night of a new moon for this, so I knew I had to get my tent set up and situated ASAP before the sun went down. There are a lot of others here, but most are families with kids getting ready for bed. Could hear parents reading scripture to their kids before bed, and could see others reading on Kindles and stuff before sleeping. By the time everything is set up, it's about 10 p.m. Everyone almost at once turns their lights off and passes out. This really weirded me out at first because it was the perfect night for stargazing. I didn't see a single other person setting up a chair to stargaze, any telescopes, or even just someone outside of their tent looking up. Everyone was either already asleep or going to sleep. I gave it some more thought and figured they all probably just wanted to wake up before or with the sunrise because we're in the desert. Sleeping in wouldn't exactly be a pleasant experience when you're getting cooked alive, I imagine. I worked night shift, so staying up was not an issue in the slightest bit. So at this point, the only people I can see that are awake are myself, this family at the campground vaguely near me reading scripture, and a whole mess of people in the bathroom. My tent is located at the far side of the campground, so to my left is nothing but desert and cliff. In front of me is the bathroom, about 100 feet or so away, 2 other campgrounds, about 300 feet away, and more desert and sky. To my right and behind me is the rest of the campground. There's another bathroom on the far side of the campground behind me to my right, which is probably around 700 to 900 feet away. These 2 bathrooms are the only source of any light in the campground aside from a few people who are using their flashlights to come to and from the bathroom. Like I said earlier, I'm a weirdo. I won't deny that, which makes honestly telling the story to others kinda hard. So my goal out here was to grieve and to move on from a lot of loss I experienced a year ago. A lot of bad stuff happened in my life, and I lost a lot of loved ones as a result. Sometimes a good trip will really help one find a lot of closure when it comes to grief, so that was my only goal during this camping expedition. I ate about 2 grams of the substance, and it was coming up around 11 p.m. Now hear me out here. What kind of freaking close encounter story can be believed when the person telling it was under the influence of a psychedelic, you might be asking? That's a good freaking question, and I would say that being skeptical of a person's experience under the influence of such drugs is common sense. That being said, I want to say that I have a gross amount of experience with psychedelics, some trips in even weirder and more isolated places than this. Let's just say that mushrooms have been involved dozens of times in my life, and others hundreds of times. Not only that, but I keep journals of my experiences, have recordings from trips, etc. Never once has anything like this happened to me before or since. I have never seen things while tripping, have never interacted with entities, have never had thoughts or paranoia about something being there that's not. I have always had the same trips where some textures get wavy, my emotions become full and bright, and I feel at peace in my mind for those few hours finally. That's it. I'm convinced that what happened to me in the desert was not a product of the drugs, but merely happened to me while I was on them. It would have been the same had I not been on them, but that's just my opinion. I definitely do invite skepticism otherwise. It's understandable. So yeah, I'm coming up and I'm ready to gaze. I gotta pee though, and all these people hanging around the bathroom are making me nervous. No one else is awake that I can see now, no lights are on or tents open anywhere around me. The only people still awake are all over by the bathroom. I eventually cave and just head over there and do my thing. Luckily, no one bothered me or said anything to me. I start walking back over to my chair, so my spot is pretty close to the bathroom. I can walk from the front of it in a straight line in the dark, and I will without fail hit my tent after about 25 seconds of walking. Because it's this easy, I don't bother whipping my flashlight out to get there. Plus, saving my phone battery for the drive out is still my priority anyway. I'm walking through the dark when I see the outline of my hammock chair and a person standing right next to it staring at it. I freeze and stare at them too. I'm super confused as to why this person is in my camp spot, standing alone in the dark just staring at my chair. Maybe they are curious about it? I don't know. It's weird as hell. I wave at them, but they don't notice. So I move a little closer and I guess the sound of my footsteps alerted them to my presence. They shot their heads up towards me, took around 3 steps in my direction, backed up about 6 steps, flashed a bluish flashlight in my eyes, and quickly walked away from me towards another person I hadn't noticed either, standing in the dark around 15 feet from us. They both stand next to each other, shining their blue flashlights at their feet, and they both move around me towards the bathroom and disappear into the girls' restroom. Freaking weird, right? I thought so, standing there all terrified like a dumb idiot. I rationalized that the first person must have been waiting for their friend to catch up or something. I sit down and finally put on some good music in my headphones and just melt into the beautiful show playing in the sky above. It's around 11:30 to midnight and there's still people freaking around near the woman's restroom. It's actually really just distracting at this point and bugging me a lot because it's right in my line of sight. They just kept waving their flashlights around and coming in and out, but they never seem to go anywhere. They will walk out of the restroom, turn their lights off, and just walk in the dark without their lights to guide them. They usually will either walk behind the bathroom where I can't see them, or off to the left side into the dark where there are no camp spots. I notice someone is standing next to me now. I tear my headphones out and shoot my head to my right. There is a silhouette of a person standing about 7 feet from my chair. I am frozen and spooked pretty bad. They take around 2 to 3 steps towards me, then back up again around 6, then walk around me and always to the dark with no flashlight away from me and the bathroom. Now that's it, I'm freaking spooked beyond words. I don't think it's anything supernatural at this point, but I definitely think it's some people up to no good. The nearest city is hundreds of miles away and we are far from any civilization out here. If these were people trying to hurt me, they could do it rather easily. I stay in the chair for now, but I keep my headphones off so I can hear the environment around me. My head is now on a swivel, but I'm still trying my best to enjoy the night. Now it's midnight and no one else is awake. No flashlights anywhere, no voices, nothing. All the bathroom people finally vanished and it was just me awake, as far as I could tell. With my headphones off, I started to notice sounds now. The sound of a jet somewhere nearby would come and go, flying around wherever in the desert. I kept looking for its aircraft lights, but could never find them. This deep, almost physics-defying boom would occasionally shake the desert, but in a weird way. When I heard and felt it, I would feel my body tense and shake with it, and the air too, but never the ground. It's weird because it sounded as if it was coming from the ground itself, not the air. I would hear what also sounded like laughter coming from the desert to my left, the portion of desert with no camp spots or people. I'm still at this point just chilling. I'm obviously starting to suspect some weird crap, but for the most part I'm chilling and enjoying the night. Then, orbs in the sky. I practically crapped myself when I saw this. Above one of the cliffs far out in the horizon, this little swarm of glowing orbs had appeared and they were almost dancing around one another. I remember this moment very clearly. I remember seeing them, thinking, I can't explain that. What the hell is that? There's nothing I could imagine that can move like that, not even drones. I won't record this, I promise. It would ruin it and I want to see it through. I remember thinking that last part very clearly out of nowhere and thought it was weird how specific it was in my mind. I hadn't even thought to record it in the first place, at least consciously, as I had just noticed it was there. But here I was making a promise to myself that I wouldn't even try no matter what would happen. Another cluster of orbs appears in the sky to my right, and almost simultaneously, the orbs to my left instantly shoot across the sky to join the other orbs. I start smiling like a freaking idiot. This is it, the thing I stopped believing in for decades because I never saw it. I had let the world convince me that it was just as boring as it appeared and never once allowed myself to think it could actually be more than that. And the proof of that was finally freaking staring me in the face. I had to keep checking in with myself like, this isn't the mushrooms, right? No, it's definitely not. I see that and no, I'm not hallucinating. Probably went through that little personal questioning process close to a dozen times over the course of the next few minutes. The jet sound comes back. And it's much louder now. I can actually see the aircraft lights now flying directly overhead, but they aren't blinking like usual. They fly into this dark cloud in the sky I hadn't noticed before, and vanish along with the jet sound. The orbs continue playing around each other until they vanish too. All in all, I'd say this lasted for like an hour. It's now around 1 a.m. and I really gotta freaking pee. I obviously hold it as long as I can because I'm witnessing the single most special thing I'll ever get to see right in front of my eyes, but eventually I break and just want to get it over with. So I'm a trans woman. I wouldn't even bring that up if it didn't have some sort of relevancy to the story, by the way. I look and sound exactly like a girl. It's pretty much impossible for people to tell that I'm not cis and haven't been clocked in a long time, but I still have all the male genitalia. I'm out here in the freaking desert on shrooms, witnessing some high strangeness, but I still gotta be careful of what bathroom I use. Normally I would just use the girls, but those people I encountered earlier were still making me paranoid, so I figured if worse comes to worse, I'd rather be caught in the men's in case there are some weirdos out here. I head in there, and I'm doing my thing at the urinal as fast as possible. I zip down and start going. The freaking goddamn moment I start, the door to the restroom shoots the frick open, and some guy with short brown hair, around 5'6", with a sunken droopy face, runs in, eyes glued to the ground, and barges into the stall next to me, shutting the door and doing his business. The only word I could use to describe him was that he looked sick. This obviously scares the hell out of me. It's like 1 a.m. and I haven't seen another human being in a few hours, and I just saw the light show in the sky. And here I am peeing, freaking standing up at a urinal, and I'm alone with this dude. He pees for no joke 3 seconds. That's it. All that rush, all that urgency for 3 seconds of tinkle time? Who does that? He spent the rest of his time there slowly pulling out toilet paper from the roller for some reason. I'm a dumb bitch and just held my bladder for way too long. So I'm trying my freaking best to just get it all out so I can leave, but it's taking forever. I finally finish and for some reason go to wash my hands. I don't know why. It just felt like the right thing to do in the moment. The guy shoots out of the stall again way too hard and fast, comes right next to me at the sink, washes his hand for a total of 2 seconds, and leaves the bathroom as fast as he entered. I'm just kinda there, shaken. But again, I'm trying to rationalize this. I just think he's probably tripping too, and the sight of some girl peeing at the urinal at 1 a.m. probably made him think I was an alien too. So I head out and back to my chair. The moment I sat down, the lights in the bathroom I was just in shut off all at once. The lights in the girls' bathroom and the boys'. No one enters or leaves either, and now just a single tiny yellow bulb can be seen glowing above a park ranger's bulletin board on the other side of the building. I sit down and almost kind of invite more weird crap to happen around me. The jets are back now, and louder than before. There are orbs, now huge rings around the campground, pulsating and growing, and then dimming, slowly drifting around. I am terrified, but I also can't move. That's really the whole reason I didn't hide in my tent. Who the hell in their right mind would listen to their instinct to run when you could see how far it could go? I hear weird sounds coming from the desert, what sounds like shouting and a baby crying far away. The orbs reappear in the sky, and behind the trees next to my tent, it looks like the moon is shining through, but it's a new moon. It's now 2 a.m. The bathroom lights come back on, but only the lights in the men's restroom. The women remain off, and I see no one come or go. At the point, the only thing that can be heard coming from my mouth the past little bit is, "I'm a dumb bitch. Why am I doing this? This is terrifying and I'm dumb for just letting it happen." I'm very aware of my desire to run and give in to the fear, but that is highly outweighed by my curiosity. At least it was. A person who comes from seemingly nowhere with no flashlight on and no clear intention of direction walks in front of the bathroom, and it's terrifying. Normally that ain't freaking scary, it's just some person. But like, this person was easily 10 to 13 feet tall. The bathroom itself was around 13 feet tall, and this person walking in front was at mid-level with the top ventilation window. The crown of their head was taller than the building itself. They walked in front of the restroom and into the dark, and I shot out of my chair. The only thing I said was, "Nope, nope, 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 frickin' nope. Go to hell. Screw you, that's terrifying. Nope, fricking nope." Or something like that. As fast as I could, I ran into my tent and quickly zipped it up. This wasn't even running at this point. My sympathetic nervous system just oiled over and was very adamant that I needed to freaking hide. It's hard to describe what I felt, but it was the most primal fear I've ever felt in my life. I have bipolar disorder and post-traumatic stress disorder, so I'm used to feeling a staggering amount of terror in my mind on a daily basis when my symptoms show up. But this was on a whole other level. It was like some deep animal part of me understood the moment I saw them, or whatever it was, that I was no longer at the top of the food chain. Another ultra-predator, much, much smarter than me, had just made itself known, and my body was tending up like a wild animal at the sight of it. I felt truly humbled and small in that moment, and I knew I was outmatched. They were now outside of my tent, and were scurrying non-circles around it. The sound of their footsteps gave way to the feeling of their voice playing side by side with my own inner voice. This is where it gets hard to explain. We talked, but talking is not the right word for it. They communicate in pure concept and feeling. And it's so subtle and instantaneous, it's hard to describe how obvious it is, while at the same time being so subtle as to almost be indistinguishable from your own thoughts and feelings. The things we talked about were rather personal, so I won't go into too much detail. I asked them about the jets, whether that was us and if we're trying to find them. They said yes. I thought we weren't smart enough to find you guys. They said no, you are smart. You just aren't creative. They said they are scared of us too, but are much more aware of us than them. They want to know us more, but it's hard. Too much complication. It cited me running and hiding as proof. I said that's natural. For us. I'm still an animal with a nervous system hardwired towards survival. Something new and unknown is going to do that to people no matter how rational they try to stay. They said they liked me because I was honest about the fear. They were scared too. They just want freedom, and they want that for us too, but they aren't quite sure what to do, or at least they wouldn't tell me. Whenever I would ask their name or why they were here, they would deliberately ignore me. They also seemed to get a kick out of messing with me, also citing that as a reason for this. They did one thing that I really liked, and it was to show me that they have always cared and always will. It really is hard to describe the feeling they gave me, but the best way to describe it was unconditional love. They called me family and kept expressing their love for me and told me that I chose this. I didn't get that part all too well. When they said that to me, all these memories flooded in from my childhood, but I'm still struggling to draw any connections. After a while, I of course had to pee again. I did, and nothing happened. I went back into my tent to eat some trail mix and to record an audio recording of what we just talked about, so I could remember as much as possible. I noticed the time on my phone said something like 11 a.m. My phone has never messed up like that before, changing the time on me. It was a little validating to see it, to be honest. It was very clearly the middle of the night, not 11 a.m. I left the tent and they messed with me just a little bit more. More orbs in the trees, lights going off in the bathroom, etc. Eventually, 5 a.m. hit and they were gone. The sun came up and I headed home. There's a lot of details I skipped over because this story is already way too long, but there you have it. Like I said, I don't expect anyone to believe me. I really do invite skepticism, honestly, as I was under the influence of a psychedelic substance. I do have to say, out of the hundreds of trips I've had, I've never experienced something like this before or since, nothing even close. I truly believe that these events happened and that the drugs were not responsible for their inception whatsoever. What to take away from it? I don't know, to be honest. It was amazing and I want to meet them again. I am extremely humbled now. I believe in other beings again and have this sense of family and home in myself I've never quite had before. Has anyone out there met them too? I'd love to hear your story if so, and to let you know you aren't alone in your experience. They are out there, and they do exist. Case notes for the bonus case file: an extraordinary close encounter of the third kind. So the first thing I'll just say is that, yeah, obviously this is harder to swallow for some people due to psychedelics being involved. Mind-altering substances can have effects and even cause hallucinations depending on the type. That's only as far as I know from other people, however. I myself have never consumed any sort of drug like that. In fact, the only drug I routinely consume is caffeine. I don't even do alcohol, I don't smoke, I don't really experiment with any other substances. I like my mind how it is. Nothing needs to change. Nothing against people who do take drugs, it's not for me. Now, from what I know, no drug would create a fluid hallucination to this extent. I could be wrong, and maybe it is just a hallucination based on the drug. Maybe part of it is, maybe the orbs in the sky and the jets were real, and it really was just the military pursuing unknown flying objects. Orbs flying in the sky are a often reported UFO sighting. So I think that's real. Now, the entity, maybe that's a hallucination? Maybe it's something your mind needed to hear to reinvigorate the spark in your life. Or maybe it's not a hallucination at all. I definitely like the idea of the ability to communicate telepathically, because there's a quote, I think it's from a TV show called Dexter, all about a serial killer getting away with murder, but he only kills, or tries to only kill, guilty people who've committed murder, from his father's Harry's code. Anyways, not to go on a tangent, there's a quote from his father telling him, no matter how close two people are, there's an infinite distance that separates them. As sad as that quote is, I think there's a lot of truth to it. We can't truly know someone else. We can't go into their mind and know what they're thinking, how they're feeling. So if that is possible, if there are aliens out there that can communicate telepathically with us, then presumably we could do it too at some point, maybe with other humans. And maybe just in that essence, we can connect together in a way that we never thought possible. There's a lot of beauty, a lot of hope, and a lot of danger in that possibility. We'll see what happens.